Welcome to the Savvy Leader Podcast. Real conversations about the grit, grace, and gratitude it takes to be the savvy leader you were always meant to be. Welcome back to the next episode of the Savvy Leader Podcast. Today, I am humbled by the mere presence of Miss
stop.
Marian Cook, owner, founder of Archstone Workspace in Coon Rapids. Marian has a rich history in education she is a Harvard-trained educator and also an executive educator for MIT and Yale in leadership and emerging technology. So really, really exciting stuff and such an interesting pivot, or just combination, I should say, from all of this incredible education experience that you have into owning your own business, which was kind of a recent change for you, and all of the things that that entailed, plus a major move for you and your family. So I am so grateful to have you here. I just cannot wait to get this conversation started. So without further ado, Marian, please tell us a little bit about yourself and share some insights as to what Archstone Workspace is all about, how you designed it, and what caused you to shift somewhat from your education into business ownership.
Happy to. I will say I'm having a blast of a career, and I wish that for everyone. Yes, I did do a pivot, but I've been pivoting my whole career, and that's part of why it's been so fun for me. I do enjoy change. I'm a very aggressive learner, all of that. And in fact, the education that I do now was a pivot from decades-long career in business and technology. I've owned businesses, turned them around. I've done consulting work. I've started, I can go on and on and on. A CIO at one point. And then I sort of fell backwards into education. And so I could tell you that story if you're interested. But the last 5 or 6 years, it has been education. And I hadn't anticipated or planned for any of that. In fact, I would say I haven't planned for much of anything except to make sure that I'm doing things I've never done before. Has been like a key mantra for me. Yeah. So, and I can talk at length about that as well. But so started my career at IBM as a systems engineer, and then did all these other things around, implementing systems, and then leadership, project management, et cetera. And then the education thing kind of came out of the blue. I did do a stint in government for a little while. I was, I totally wasn't expecting any of this. I guess I just walk around with eyes wide open in wonder and amazement that I'm having this much fun and I'm making money. Really, honestly, it's true. But I did work for 2 years for the governor of the state of Illinois as the chief strategy officer for innovation and technology for the state of Illinois. Then I went on to found a emerging technology and innovation practice for an international consulting firm. While all that was going on, because I was on the team that created the first blockchain strategy for any state in the United States, that got me on MIT's radar. And then I was doing that part-time, and then came around, it went very well, and they asked me to join them full-time. So now, in addition to the co-working space, I have a full-time job where I am responsible for several MIT classes around AI, corporate innovation and innovation ecosystems, exponential leadership. I also do Yale's online executive education for their women's leadership development class. And then I manage a team of about 20 people who do similar things and get involved in a lot of strategic initiatives, et cetera. So I will tell you that I have been working 7 days a week for like the past 2 years, as you know. And I think I'm going to publicly recognize and thank both you and your partner, Sammy Peluso, in being key contributors to the success of the startup of Archstone. So I wanted to publicly thank you for that.
That is far too kind. We have been blessed to have you in our community and to know you and to see all of the wonderful things and the ways that you've contributed back into, well, you're literally just pouring into all the business owners in the area with all of your immense experience and expertise and insights, and all these innovations that you're sharing with everyone has been just incredible. So, right back at you. I applaud you for your energy and taking this change in trajectory from, you're still doing the education, but
Yeah,
what prompted you to want to open up a co-working
sure.
space?
Sure. So all of my life, with the exception of the last 2 or 3 years, was in Illinois. And then we came up to Minnesota because we have family up here. It's a beautiful state. For those of you who are in Minnesota, please don't take it for granted. It is glorious. It is beautiful. It is big-hearted, and it was very welcoming to us. So we came up to join family, love Minnesota, et cetera, decided to put down roots here. And at the same time, my son Joe, who is high functioning autistic, we were looking for someone we could partner. He wasn't getting career traction in the marketplace, all of that. And I'm just laughing at myself because I do take on a lot. Um, so we started up this co-working space. Now, a lot of people don't know what the word co-working means. It's a shared office space where if you are an individual business and you need one office or two or three offices, you can get those individually here, and we do that monthly. So it allows a lot of entrepreneurs to get a professional environment where they can work. And then we have this open space where we host events, and it's like your own private coffee shop where you know how you go into a coffee shop and you'll see all these people pounding away on your laptops. Well, it's sort of the same thing, only it's private, and you get to know people, and you work with your friends. And I know you've hosted many networking events and educational events there as well. So it becomes a bit of a community hub. We do the and starting it with my son. So we were looking for something to do together. I was working in a coffee shop because I work remotely mostly, and a soccer team came bounding in the door. I'm like, okay. And I was on a business call, right? So I'm like, you know what? I need to upgrade this a little bit. And I had worked at co-working spaces in the past, and I thought maybe this is something that Joe and I can do. Now, it took us 9 months to find the right space because space is tight in this area. It's growing. There's a lot of demand to be where we're at. We're very fortunate about that. We found a great location in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. And it really created this environment where you had all these go-getters like yourself coming in who had, ambition and dreams and were working hard to make them happen and were incredibly friendly and accepting of my son, Joe. So Joe's in this situation now where he's surrounded by people who inspire him and welcome him and want to work with him. And I'm going to start crying. But it's been wonderful to see his social skills grow, his business skills grow, his professionalism grow. Right now, he pretty much does everything: the bookkeeping, invoicing, facilities management. He's all the background stuff, and I'm the face, such as it is.
Yeah.
And I do like the social things, like I'll kick off an event or host an event or give people tours, that sort of thing. So it's really just been an incredible experience for him and for me to get to know him and how best to work with him. So I was able to take my education experience and kind of deconstruct it, get to know Joe, and figure all these different things out. Now, part of our dream is we'll probably start ramping up on this maybe second or third quarter of this year, is if this works out, which it really is, we'd like to maybe create a book or a product or a class or something for other families who are in our situation or other people who support adults in the autism spectrum. It's not going to be a moneymaker, but man, if I can give somebody what's what the transformation that we've been through. Oh man, I'll do that all day and twice on Sundays because it's been massive. And there really isn't a lot of good support for adults with autism. Yeah, he's very high functioning. Now we don't want to like franchise or any of that stuff because I'm just a mama bear taking care of my cub. I don't know what individual autism family dynamics are going on. I just know that I experimented, tried a lot of different things, bumbled and found our way through it. And it's really turned out to be just an incredible blessing.
Ah, it's such a wonderful story to hear, and I am so, So glad for you. I
Yeah,
remember when you guys first, started out and we were just getting to know each other and getting to know Joe, and I just thought he was just a great guy. But to hear that he's flourishing in that environment and that
yeah,
you've seen such a huge change is incredibly heartwarming. And I'm just so glad to have been able to be a small part of that. So thank you for sharing that. It's such a beautiful story. And I think so many people out there, I know some, matter of fact, um, in similar situations looking for something, you just happened to nail it. You nailed it. Awesome.
yeah, yeah. It was, it was as I said, I've worked 7 days a week for the last several years. It's
You
not for
have.
cowards. It's not for, so if I can, help a family and then maybe they get the weekends off because they
Yeah.
can learn from us, that would just be incredible. So it wasn't that we were just starting up a co-working space. It was really like setting up a lab, a place where we could experiment and try different things, create an ecosystem for the business people that work here. Because it gets to be a community here and we support each other. We have a lot of fun together and all of that. But also where my son felt welcome. And people have been nothing but gracious and wonderful about it. One of the things I talked to Joe about, that's my son's name, as you know, is there's a Stoic philosophy saying of the obstacle is the way. So instead of trying to pretend like this obstacle isn't there, oh no, it's actually a doorway into something else. And if you ever look at our logo, you'll see we have a little portal. It's a door, and in fact, it's an arch, because the idea behind Archstone itself is when you take a look at arches, imagine a series of arches holding up a bridge. They're distributing the weight laterally across the shoulders of all the other arches. And when you do that architecturally, you can build the building higher and you get more sunlight in. So the idea behind the name Archstone Workspace was that we can share the work amongst each other. And when we work together, we can go farther and see farther as well. And you know our motto, which is the Quaker proverb, I lift thee and thee lift me, and we ascend together. And that's what we aspire.
Beautiful. Just everything about it is amazing and incredible. I love that you have such a deep connection to it in that way.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
often, people launch a business and they just pick something they think will be popular or catchy or something cool. But you've got some real meaning behind that and it's significant and it parallels just everything that you're working on and working towards, and it's just the basis for all that you do. It's so wonderful. Now, tell us a little bit about, because I know you have a lot more to offer than just a co-working space. How does your leadership and your education and all of that background play into the way you designed and grew the co-working space that you now have, which is so unique compared to
Yeah.
most?
Yeah. So education is a huge piece of it, of course. And at one point, and I haven't kept track of this, but we offered more education and networking events than any other co-working in the space, and in the state of Minnesota, I should say. And we're a small co-working space, so very heavily event oriented. And whenever you start up a business, the key thing is getting those clients in the door, right? That's the key thing. You can, there's the who's that famous author? Oh, Gerber, the E-Myth book where he has the analogy of people usually start a business around their passion, which might be baking pies, but they don't realize that baking pies and running a pie shop are like two completely different things. And so people think I'm going to start a business on pies, but you got to get those clients, you got to get all that other stuff in the door. So I have always had a very experimental approach just to life in general, and so we just kept trying stuff, and we did a lot of events that first year. We did a lot of kind of off the wall stuff. My perspective is you can do anything you want here as long as you don't set anything on fire. So, and then
Well, I guess
uh,
that's probably that's a good foundation there. You
yeah,
gotta
we
have
used to
one
do some.
rule.
I had a client. He's like, "Well, where's all this stuff? Where's your policy manual?" I said, "You're looking at it. Write this stuff down." Well, I did have somebody say, we could, when we talked about no putting things on fire, and they're like, well, what about a little tabletop s'mores fire? We could have like maybe fish
Everybody's
chopping
always
involved.
gonna push the envelope,
Yeah.
aren't
Well,
they?
including me. So we did things like art shows. We did the Archstone Business Incubator, which you know about, which really was a way to, I've done a lot of work with incubators in the past, like 1871 is like an internationally recognized incubator in Chicago. I've done a lot of work in with startups through the state of Illinois by having my own businesses. I've had several myself, et cetera. So the incubator program is a place where people who are just starting a business or really want to kind of rethink it and get it to grow can come, and they get 3 months of co-working space. They get weekly workshops, and they can use our event space and all of that. And they get a lot of mentoring and coaching. And so a lot of my education background and business background, came there. We did the art show. We have these, in the business community, there's a lot of networking groups that do the 30 or 60-second commercial, which is valuable, and it's a wonderful thing. But a lot of times people want to connect in a little more deeper way, and so we do morning brew and big ideas, which is the. So have you been to that? That gets to be very. We have a lot of people who enjoy that, so it gets to be very full. Because what we do is we get people together and we talk about a bigger topic like strategic thinking or art or learning or something like that. So, those are the kinds of, kind of different things that we do. We've done vendor markets, we've done holiday events, we've partnered with key influencers like yourself in the Lead Network group. I was a member, I still am a member of the chamber, and now I'm on the board. But, connecting with that chamber is important. Our first year, we allowed people to use the event space for free, and that really brought in a lot of people. So we've done a lot of different things, and it's all revolved around a couple of different key themes. Number one has been education. Number two has been community building, and to kind of put that on steroids, one of the things I did as the chief strategy officer for Illinois was I was responsible for helping to build the innovation ecosystem. I've done a lot of work in innovation in large corporations before, and this was bringing together different stakeholders that help a area economically flourish, like getting academia, venture capital, government, large and small businesses together. So I had this ecosystem kind of approach. How can I get different constituents, different representatives from various areas together in this community for a variety of different events? So it's really interesting as I look back on it. It's like, oh yeah, I can use what I did here. The Archstone Incubator is actually kind of reminiscent of a product that I had, service that I had offered at another consulting firm, et cetera. So it's just interesting how your experience all comes to play. I remember one time my father, when he turned a big birthday, he was 70 or 80, I don't know which one it was. And I said, "Oh, Dad, wouldn't you like to be that young again?" He said, "Well, I'd love to have that body, but I'd never want to be that stupid." So I've always, because as I look back on it,
Yeah.
it has really add, added each thing another layer of experience and perspective and developing this
Hmm.
and doing that, as I'm sure you've experienced being an experienced entrepreneur and doing what you're doing now. It's like you find yourself pulling things forward from your past and then making it work for right now, whatever that situation is. So
Yeah.
it's so I'd never want to be that stupid again. You're right, Dad.
Is there ever a time when you stop saying that though? Like, do you get to
No,
an age where you don't have to say that anymore?
no.
Yeah, I
My
haven't
favorite
found
is
that.
whenever I do
I know
something.
I haven't found that yet. Um, Okay, so you laid out just a plethora of different ways that you grew your community and the things that you were passionate about. And I know one of your favorite things to say is, it's just an
Yeah,
experimentation. It's
yeah,
just
yeah,
an
yeah, yeah.
experiment.
Yeah.
When did you start recognizing things that were experiments and needed to no longer be experiments, like whether or not you had to drop that experiment because that wasn't working, or whether or not it turned into like what you talked about as morning brew and big ideas. That sounds like it was started as an experiment, perhaps.
Totally. That was like that. I wanted deeper conversations with people, right? And I think people are hungry for that. Then you know, smush on a layer of isolation, right? That's a big issue now, which impacts mental health. And so when I first started doing these, you know, the nice thing about having the space is my try stuff cost is very low. I don't have to go and rent a room or any of that stuff. I'm able to just say I have an idea and then try it. So that's been fantastic. I've always been very experimental. Um, I'm just laughing because when I was a kid, I remember I was standing by a pond, a lake, and there was a dirt bank, and there was a hole in the dirt bank, and a bug flew out. And I was like, I wonder what's in there. So I took a windy vine and I was like, I would experiment, see what's in that, what animals in that hole. Well, it was a wasp nest. So I'm like, do 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 do, and pew, 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 pew.
That didn't end well.
Well, it did. When I realized, I just started to laugh and just run for the water, man.
Run for the hills. Okay.
So when you start getting bee stings on your ass, it's time to stop these.
Ah,
Anyway, but I've always been like pushing the boundaries and,
yes, you
uh,
sure have.
yeah. And when do you know something is a success or not? Well, if you get what you expect, but to me, even things that didn't work out as I had hoped still were interesting and good lessons that I could build on. So some successful things were the incubator. I always get people who want to do that. I mean, the demand is there. The morning brew and big ideas, people want to do that. So there's I've got some crazy things coming for 26 that are experiments. Look out. Um, and but some of them, I don't want to say don't work because it's all part of the learning, right? An experiment is about learning. It's not about failure. So as long as I time box them, etc. So one thing I did that did not have the traction I thought it would was I started up a speakers series in 2025 or four, one of those years. Um, and my value proposition to the speakers was, hey, if you everybody share everybody else's, I'm going to make the social media posts. If you share everybody else's, we'll continue to move forward. I also added some education classes for them, etc. And I found that the speakers were not sharing each other's posts, etc. I mean, here was an opportunity. I had like 25 people in a variety of different social circles and business circles that really could have, expanded everybody's reach. And I found that only about a third of the people did that. And so I shut it down and I told people I was going to do it. So I was very clear about, what my expectations were. Everybody said they were going to do it. They did not for whatever reasons. That got deprioritized or whatever. And I think people were really surprised when I shut it down. But I said, if you don't care about your talk, if I care more about your talk than you do, I'm backing out of this. So it was an experiment and it did not have the outcomes that I wanted to. I made some great relationships with some speakers. And so was that a failure? Well, yes and no. I mean, I have no regrets, so I don't think it really was. So every year I've tried different things. The first year we opened, I was in the chamber, and then I thought, you know what, I really want to connect. I want to connect with other people within the chamber. So then I got on the board, so that was sort of an experiment. Let's just check this networking group out. And it turned out to be very fruitful for me. We did the speaker series, we've done the incubator program. So, my advice to people is to just quit consuming content and start creating your own life. I just think a lot of people are hesitant to move forward. So don't think of it as a big deal. It's just an experiment.
It's just an
Liberate your,
experiment.
liberate yourself from the prison of perfectionism. Get out there
Mm.
and try stuff.
Such great advice. Absolutely. And, you know, so though you've got a unique perspective, though, you look at innovation from a different lens than most. You look at it as a way of living. And it's
Yeah.
such a huge world view for you. When did you start thinking about that? When did that start shaping up in your brain to kind of embrace innovation in that way?
So my first job out of college was with IBM as a systems engineer, and a couple of key epiphanies or whatever happened. Number one was I was there for a couple of years, and people started getting laid off, and this was the late '80s, and that IBM had never done anything like that before. People were really just shocked. They had made all kinds of decisions thinking they had that income forever, and they didn't. And so I saw some wonderful high caliber people in their 50s and 60s get laid off, and it was a shock to their system, as you can imagine. And I took a step back. Now I didn't get laid off because I was young and dumb and cheap. I was fodder. But anyway, um, but I took a step back and I was like, okay, All right, so I need to be responsible for my own skill set, and that was, and be sure that I'm always, going once, understanding where the market's going, and then I go there. So as a result of that, every job I've ever had, at least 50% of it I've never done before. So, and that's a very aggressive learning curve, right? So I did not want to be the kind of person who says, hey, I've been in purchasing 30 years. Isn't that great? When maybe it was the same year 30 times. And so while their income might have been going up, their market value was actually leveling off or going down. And if they were to leave that organization, that social capital they had internal to that organization that made them good, they wouldn't have externally. So to me, that was now, that was the late 80s. Since then, I think everybody thinks that way. But at the time, it was, kind of like people were really just, their worlds were absolutely rocked. And when people get laid off, their worlds are still rocked. So I'm not making light of that or thinking it's okay or thinking everybody's all right with it. We shouldn't be. But my takeaway was, okay, I need to be a really aggressive learner. I would do things like, I remember one time somebody asked me now, listen to the wording. They said, Marian, would you do a talk on technology X? Would you do a talk on technology X? Or could you do a talk on technology X? Now, technology X was the newest thing coming over the horizon. And they didn't ask me if I knew anything about technology. They just asked me if I could give a talk. So I said, absolutely. And by the time it was time for me to give that talk, I knew it cold because I was not going to go in front of 200 engineers as a woman in the late 80s and not know my stuff.
You're
And I
damn right.
realized that's right. And, not that anybody, was throwing
No,
harpoons
of
or
course
anything,
not, but
but right, the binocular, the
mm-hmm.
microscope, whatever. So I realized, oh, this is an interesting way to force myself to learn. So I would make these sort of events, forcing events to make myself learn things. That I also was always trying to take on new responsibilities, new projects, whatever. 50% of it I've never done before. And then another big epiphany was there was a client that was so upset with the previous engineer that the client said, if that engineer comes back on our property, we're calling the police. A little upset. And, this just happened. It was a big ruckus in the office. Everybody knew about it. And my manager in a team meeting laughingly said, well, who wants that client? And I raised my hand because I figured there's no way to lose here. Nobody's expecting me to turn this around. So what the heck? If I can turn them around and get a skill set and a brand around turning things around, that's a huge plus. So I raised my hand. Everybody's like, what?
Good
Within
for
2 years.
you.
Well, it was a quick assessment. It's like, I can't lose. Why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Let's go.
yeah.
It's an
I
experiment.
mean, and looking at that, I mean, oftentimes, well, first I wanted to touch on that 50% that you mentioned there. That's a big deal.
That's a big deal. Yeah.
I know that there's some statistics out there between men and women in relation to new jobs. And men have a little bit more confidence and they're willing to take on a job. I think it's like 30 or 40% if they feel like they've got 30 or
Mm-hmm.
40% of the experience needed. Women, on the other hand, typically like to be at the 70 or 80% or higher. So to hear that you were risky that way and just,
Mm-hmm.
you just kind of ran with it. You just took it and you owned it and you ran with it and you stepped in and stepped up. And that made a big difference in your trajectory. And
Oh,
that too, I think, sets
huge.
you up for embracing that difficult client.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was honest about it, and I was able to turn that client around because I was honest. When I didn't know something, I told the client, I don't know that, but let me get back to you. The other engineer like tried to bluff their way through. I don't know what the heck they were doing. But and within 2 years, they became a showcase account, which meant IBM was flying clients in, and they would brag about how great IBM was. So, and it's not that I'm magical; it's just that I'm like this little terrier that clamps onto your leg. I'm going to make you love me. No, but I busted
Like
my
it or
rear.
not.
I busted my rear end. Right, I was
You
there at two in
did.
the morning, making sure stuff happened and all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. And it's nothing, it's just, common sense isn't always common practice.
Hmm.
And so, but I had a blast doing that. I mean, I was like, okay, this
That's
gauntlet is
so great.
down.
But you also mentioned something there, and you said it before earlier. You worked 7 days a week to get the last couple of years you've been working 7 days a week. Now you talked again about, the hustle and the heart that you put into everything that you do. And clearly at your core, you've got this quiet hustle.
Oh,
You
it's
don't
not
make a big
quiet
huge statement out of it, but you're down there in the trenches doing the work
doing the work.
because damn it, that's who you are and you're going to get it done.
Well, I say thank you. And I say, and I think this might be true. I'll pretty much outwork and outlearn anybody, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah,
I hear.
and I love it. It's not like I'm working at a salt mine. I am
Yeah.
blessed. Eight
And
ways to
then that's
Sunday, man.
why. Look at that.
And so, I'm very grateful. And I had a great example in my parents and a husband who supports me. And we just sort of let each other be each other. And it works out. It works out very, very well. So I realize I'm lucky.
Well, yes. You've got some blessings in your life, no question.
Yeah.
I think that you recognize something within yourself though, and you took it and you ran with it. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
recognizing that path and just saying, like it or not, this is where I fit. And then you found the joy and you found the happiness in that, and you knew that that's where you needed to be. So you kept grabbing at those particular opportunities, and you're not afraid to work hard, and that's a huge deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how about, life isn't always roses. Okay, fine.
Damn
Sometimes
it.
we have hardships. Sometimes we feel like, maybe we feel a little bit like a failure. How do you digest some of those times when you didn't do what you wanted or what you thought you would, or things didn't work out, and
Sure.
how do you digest all that too? Because it
Well,
happened.
I do throw myself pity parties where I just let it out, right? And but I do I'm very kind to myself because I had not been, there's times when I would beat myself up and I say, what is the point of that? So I'm like, okay, Marian. I mean, literally, good job. Didn't turn out how you wanted to, but good job, Marian. At least you tried. So I have a constant pattern of positivity in my head, which is huge. I my that self-talk works for me. It does not work against me. I do when there's things that, I had a particular situation where I needed to let go of something, right? And it's something that didn't turn out the way I wanted to. The relationship soured, whatever. And I did. I thought, you know what? I need to grieve this, and I need to recognize that this is a loss of a perceived future, a perceived opportunity. I thought things were going to go this way, they went that way. It's really troubling me. I did a lot of self-examination. I believe I owned what my issues were. Who knows, right? When we'll get up to the pearly gates and they look at the scorecard, I don't know what it's going to say. But I really worked through it. I did uh, a sort of stream of conscious journaling to get the anger out and then to examine myself. So I was like really conscious of that I needed to process. I had a friend of mine who lost three very important people to her within 18 months. It was her sister committed suicide, her good friend died of cancer, and then her father passed away. And she was like, Marian, when my father passed, she was like, Marian, you got to give yourself time to grieve. Set aside time to grieve. And so, whether that's the loss of a person or what I call a perceived future, I thought this was going to happen, and it is very clearly not going to. What's my part in that? What am I going to learn from that? Part of innovation is that feedback loop, right? But
Yeah.
then I had to let it go. So
Yeah.
so there's this my own Americanization of a Japanese ritual. It's sort of like
Mm.
I'm probably the Taco Bell of Mexican cuisine in this. But my
That's
interpretation of
okay.
this Japanese uh, ritual that they go through is that they put something on rice paper, or they'll put it on a lantern that floats in the water, or
Mm.
something where you are writing down whatever it is, whether it's a blessing or something you need to let go of, and you put it in the water and you acknowledge it, and you thank it. Thank you for the lesson that I've learned. And then you let it go. And you know where the Coon Rapids Dam is?
Yeah. Mm.
Okay, so I have done that there. I have taken dried up leaves off the ground and a Sharpie and written that down. And then I thank it and let it go. And I've
Yeah.
done that for this one particular thing probably 10 times because once is not enough. I'm an overachiever. I got I got to really let it go. But it's a pause.
Yeah.
We're all on galloping horses. I often joke about this. And, sometimes we've got one foot in the stirrup and our ass is bumping on the ground. We have no time to think or even to feel. So I always think of my friend who said, Marian, you need to give yourself time. You need to process. Don't just ignore and put away. She said with those 3 deaths that she just kept pushing things down and pushing things down and pushing things down. And then it kind of broke her a little bit. Right. So when my father passed away, because my friend had told me this, I went to his grave almost every day and we talked and I cried and I walked around it and said, thank you, Dad. And, so I had to like
Yeah.
let it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Do allow. Yeah. Do allow it to just be. And yeah, I'm a firm believer and you got to feel the feels.
Yeah.
If you want to move on, you got to let yourself feel the feels. Otherwise, you're right. It's just going to keep coming back. It's going to creep in your head. It's going to come back at the wrong times and it can derail you.
Yeah. So yeah, everything's not sunshine and roses, but you grow as a person through hardship and struggle,
Hmm.
and as long as you acknowledge it and don't pretend it didn't happen, and
Yeah.
don't admit to yourself what your role in that is. So that stream of
Yeah.
consciousness journaling is really interesting. because, uh,
Tell me
well, because,
more.
well, it's sort of like, have you heard of morning pages? It's the same sort of thing where you're supposed to take at least 3 pages, and first thing in the morning you write down whatever's on your mind, blah blah blah. Well, I Taco Belled it. And I had a spiral notebook, and I would just sit down at some point in the day because first thing in the morning, I got things to do. So, and I would sit there and I would just write, and it usually started with anger. I'm really upset with XYZ for doing ABC, and then as you do that, it's sort of like you start going, oh well, I kind of understand that. I kind of see my role in that. Oh, I understand that. I see their perspective, but I would like do that for a couple of weeks or maybe even months on a particular situation, just because I had to kind of like almost like pull myself out of it, right? And when you're writing, it's sort of like now you have your thoughts instead of swimming around in your head in a muddy fog. You've got them sitting there on your desk in a notebook, and you take a pause and you go, "Oh, yeah, yeah, well, that was me." Like the philosopher Taylor Swift says, "It's me. I'm the problem. It's me."
You're the constant. Yep, I can relate. Common denominator.
That's what's that saying? If you're
But
surrounded by assholes, maybe it's you.
yeah, that's true.
But I've never been like that.
There you go.
But
In
sort of,
case you were wondering.
yeah, it just sort of giving the time and the space, because if thoughts are very unclear, right? And if
Mhm.
you write down, it forces clarity, it forces you to learn, etc. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
been a helpful thing
incredible.
for me. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, while you're building this incredible community that you have, you've surrounded yourself with all these incredible people and in this atmosphere that you love, I mean, you've been in other workplaces. What do you believe other workplaces are lacking, or what aren't they getting that they can't seem to grow these kind of communities within their space?
Now, are you talking about just workplaces in general, like a
Yeah.
corporation?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally
Yeah.
speaking, from your experience and other work that you've had and other places that you've been, and
Yeah.
yeah, it just seems like there's always a disconnect. Um,
Yeah. So it's interesting because I've spent decades as a consultant. So that means I'm popping into a variety of different businesses, none of which are functioning well. Otherwise, they wouldn't have called in consultants, right? But it's very different industries, very different issues, all of that. So I've seen a lot of different cultures within organizations, and seen what works and what doesn't work, and how it really does start at the top with that. Um, so organizationally, so I'm going to get in the whole thing. I'm going to get my PowerPoints up around organization design, et cetera, is I think people, let me take a really big step back and go to the species level, in that we are not built to be in the environment that we're in right now. We are not built for it. How many decisions do you think the average person walking across the African savannah made 5,000 years ago? Is this berry going to kill me? Is that bush wiggling over there? Saber-toothed tiger. I mean, it was just a couple of decisions a day. They generally only worked 3 or 4 hours a day. The rest of the time they sat around talking to each other and telling stories. And the air moved around them. They were in the sunlight. They were in the fresh air. They felt the grass beneath their feet and the bee stings in their ass. And now we've constructed this very abnormal environment, right down to the what chemicals are in our clothes right now. What chemicals are in our food? What is a Cheeto? It's like we're in this huge experiment where everybody's extracting value out of everybody's everything all the time without realizing the macro effect of putting ourselves in a very unnatural environment, from the air we breathe to the food we eat, to the clothes, to the things we put on, to how we spend our time, whether the air moves or not, I'm looking in a room right now and there's straight lines. How often do you see straight lines in nature? Right? So already we're under duress from the get-go. And working all these hours, and if you have a family, you've got to spend time on that. It's just, to me, I think we've created a very stressful environment. And I will tell you, as somebody who's been in the workforce longer than you, I'm finding I'm getting to be the tribal elder in almost every room I walk into these days. The pace has absolutely picked up. Oh my heavens. And I'm sure you've seen that too. But when I started my career at IBM and what the expectations were, et cetera. So we have this very unnatural environment. And that's where having authentic leaders who are natural people and recognize the humanity in you is where it makes a difference. Because people will, and I've had people, I'm very fortunate to have teams that have just given their all to meet a particular deadline, and they'll do that for a good leader, right? But you can't ask for that all the time. It cannot be constant sprinting all the time. So if you have this culture of constant pressure and rising expectations, et cetera, at some point something's going to break. So your leadership needs to be very aware of what is the environment they're creating for success around them. Is there an opportunity to breathe, to be human, to talk to each other? I don't know how people in call centers, for example, can handle it, because they're like measured on every second, how they spend every second of time, and everybody who calls them isn't there to say, how was your day? It's there to, they're upset. So, I just think we've created this almost inhumane environment, and becoming a human within it is and allowing people to be humans within it is the most important thing. And then, we can also have a very robust discussion around artificial intelligence and what's happening
Yes.
there as well. But it's just an unrealistic expectation. So leaders need to recognize and create sort of that safe space where people can breathe. Yes, you need to produce. We all need to make our numbers, et cetera. But if, micromanagement will just stomp the life out of people. And,
Hmm.
so it's a lot of different generational dynamics going on, et cetera. So I know, like, to bring it back to, like, in co-working spaces, I've been in other ones in the area, and they don't have the emphasis on community that we do as much, or on education as much. So I'm specifically thinking about, how can I create an environment to fill that human need for connection? The worst punishment anyone can have in a prison, for example, is solitary confinement. It drives people
Hmm.
mad. And I
Yeah.
don't care how nice your house is, it's still a Ziploc bag if you never get out of it. We are not
Yes.
meant to live that way. So,
No.
yeah. So, I've just seen companies where I've been involved, going back to that first year or two out of college, where I said, hey, I want to turn things around. I want that to be my thing.
Hmm.
As a result, have been brought into things that have been, because it's become a brand and it is a skill set, where things are completely off the rails and people are
Yeah.
yelling at each other and
Yeah.
millions of dollars are being wasted and all that. And how
Hmm.
do you bring order and calm and productivity to that group, to that situation, and allow people to just breathe and don't threaten people all the time. They're not going to react well to it. I sure as heck
Hmm.
don't. And I hate to use these words, because I think they're loaded right now, but creating some sort of safe space for them to
Yeah.
be, just
Yeah.
be.
Do you believe then when you create that space? I mean, what's your experience as a consultant that you just mentioned? Did you walk into other workspaces where you saw that healthier community and Was there, and aside from just feeling a better vibe in the room, did you see accelerated growth or did you see better numbers and did you see, just a positive outcome overall?
Oh, absolutely. I could say, I'll give you like two different examples. One is dysfunctional and one is thriving. The dysfunctional one was I was brought in on a project that was completely off the rails. And the organization had announced we're going to lay 20% off of our staff, but we don't know which 20% off it'll be. So you've got a situation where everything is screwed up and you don't know if you have a job tomorrow, right? And so I don't know what I don't know what those people were thinking when they said that. I just cannot even imagine the conversation in the room. Well, we're going to lay off 20%. It might be you, might not. What are you thinking? You know what? People will lose their homes. Do you know that? You know a certain percentage of people commit suicide after they get laid off?
Yeah,
That is you know
it's a
what?
huge deal.
It's
That
a
was,
huge deal. Marriages stop. People say, I can't have,
hmm
we can't plan for a pregnancy now, and to cavalierly say that I thought was cruel. So what I did in that particular situation was I brought a group of the leaders in. I figured out pretty quickly that uh, there was like no communication, no trust. It was bananas. And I had everybody get in this room and they had a piece of flip chart paper. This is a very useful exercise, by the way. They put it on the wall, they put their name across the top, and they could not write on it. But everybody was to walk around and write on everyone else's flip chart page what they thought that person was responsible for. And then come back, and then you had to come back to the one that, the Marian sheet and
yeah,
read out loud, wait a minute, I don't do that. I thought you, and it really takes strong facilitation skills
yeah.
to
I
stop
can see
people
a
from
knockdown, drag out.
trying to sort of like put the gun down. Um, and so, coming in with some frameworks and ideas of how to move the conversation forward is, of course, very important. And like I said, I've been brought into projects to do audits, and people want to say it's not my fault, it's their fault, and you have to learn how to be a really strong facilitator in order to diffuse that and make things people feel comfortable enough. And part of it is I have to build trust with them so they know I'm not there to barbecue them. I'm not looking for a scapegoat, etc. I had a really one of my I had a lot of favorite jobs. One of them was I actually did these what are called after action reviews, which are project audits of all of the projects across the company, whether it was in marketing or IT or whatever. Figure out what was going on, et cetera. Then look for key themes. Then work with the chief learning officer to say, hey, one of the examples that comes to mind is a key issue across all projects, no matter who was involved with what, was decision making. They didn't have, they weren't didn't have transparent or even decided on decision making criteria. And once a decision was made, people would they go, oh yeah, and then they go out of the room and try to unstick it. So then we were able to develop a whole curriculum around and change management program around getting people the skills to do decision making and to say this is how we're going to do it, and this once we make a decision it is made, don't go back, that is wrong. So it's like I said, I got that brand of being able to come into dysfunction and just keep calm. And also I have been told I have a positive energy about me, and people want to be around that. I mean, who wants to be around a leader who walks in the room slumped over and says, oh, everything sucks, follow me? Who's going to do that? But if you come in with hey, I understand there's an issue here. This is the framework we're going to look at to solve it. Do you think that framework would work? How would you change that framework? So then people can see, okay, this is not something that somebody's making up on the fly in the bathroom before they walk in the room. And I'm having a chance to say, okay, that method works or it doesn't, or this is how I would tweak it. So you have to, there's a whole change management theory around that, et cetera. So, and then on the good side, I worked for a consulting firm. Because we were all consultants and we would go into these stressful situations, they had a huge emphasis on having a fabulous culture when you were in the office. And we generally were billable Monday through Thursday. With Friday, you could either work from home or you could come into the office. And most people chose to come into the office because they enjoyed each other so much. And at yeah, right. At 3 o'clock,
Wow.
yeah, at 3 o'clock, the beer would come on, and and you got to run into these really great people that you loved and could exchange ideas with, and they really were very focused on making it human, making it fun, making us connect in a variety of different ways. So that was well done.
Well, that's exciting too to think about the fact that they enjoyed coming to work and they enjoyed the people they were working with. So, which
Yeah.
causes me to think about the hiring process, and that's got to be a whole big piece to that pie as well.
Oh, I had to go through so many interviews with so many people because they were looking for culture fit, right? Panels and individuals and all kinds of different, because they wanted to make sure they got the right people in the room.
Yeah. So important. So, so, so important. And I think then it puts some of that ownership too back on the people, back on,
Yeah.
if you're going to be a part of this community, this is what we have. And, you do need to contribute. So you kind of have to self-evaluate and make sure that that's the right fit for you. And that's, I think, a healthy process to go through as
Yeah.
well.
So it was delightful to work there. And I've always kept that in my mind of how that was a fun place to work. It was hard.
Ah,
We really worked hard, but
yeah.
it was still you were with people that you admired and respected and enjoyed.
Hmm. Okay, so you are a hard worker. It's a new year. Well, we just started a new year. What do you got going on for 2026? I hope there's some rest and recovery in there for you.
Oh no.
Tell us what you got.
So I am bring. So one of the other things is that I'm also an adjunct professor in Chicago. I go down on the weekends in the fall, and I do that. And so this last fourth quarter of every year is really really hard. I was at the end of the year. I was thinking, okay, what do I need more of? And I realized I needed to dance more. I needed more joy and movement and music. So all right, so I'm bringing everybody along. So I'm starting in April a women only DJ'd cash bar dance party. And I'm doing that in April. And if it goes well, I'm going to start doing it every month because let's all have fun, right? And you know, let's do it together.
Yeah.
It's networking, but it's just networking in a different way.
Yeah, have some fun. Be a
Yeah.
little
So
bit vulnerable if you're not a good dancer.
yeah, I don't care. I don't have to look at me. My dancing's your problem.
That's right. That's right.
Uh, we're starting up again, Morning Brew and Big Ideas. I'm doing a writer's mini retreat. So, like 80% of people say they want to write a book, right? I remember reading that somewhere. And I very commonly hear in the incubator program, I want to get this book done. I want to get this book done. So, we're going to use our space here. I'm going to, again, it's an experiment. I'm trying it for a Saturday, like from 9 to 1 or something like that. People can come in, it's protected time. I will work with the people who come in to see, okay, how guided do you want this to be? Do we want to do work sprints? Do you want to have any coaching around this? Because I've actually published a book through a major publishing firm. I've done a lot of writing, blah, blah, blah. But I want people to be in charge of that and to have that protected time where they can focus on that. So we'll, bring in snacks. I'll have some, I'll talk with people, say, what is it you want, et cetera. It's a big experiment. They can use it for social media creation. They can use it for journaling or whatever, but let's just put some protected time around that. I'm doing the dance thing. And then I'm also, with the incubator program, I've done it every week. Yeah, every week there's a workshop for 3 months. And so I'm going to cut that curriculum in half and do an intensive on a Saturday and
Oh,
say,
a
yeah,
one
so I'm
day.
just going to experiment with that because a lot of people have said, hey, it's really tough for me to, commit to every Monday afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to experiment with that sort of thing.
I
Now
think that's fantastic.
yeah, and hey, let's if anybody shows up. Like I said, because my son and I own the joint, our costs are very minimal, right? So why not give it a whirl? I am also looking at, so I've done a lot of corporate leadership development, I've created programs, I've done a lot of mentoring, et cetera. So I'm going to launch something separately for the corporate person as opposed to the entrepreneur. So mentoring, sort of, applying those leadership lessons that I've learned throughout my own career as well as through other means. And then this is a total experiment. All right. So when we first came here, my husband and I did something we called it, just between the two of us, our not our cup of tea tours. So what that meant was if something was not our cup of tea, we had to do it. So what that meant was we went to you know what who preppers are? People who believe the apocalypse is coming,
Oh
sort of
yeah.
survivalists,
Oh
etc.
yeah.
Not my worldview, but okay, approaching it like an open, non-judgmental anthropologist.
Okay.
What are the values and beliefs of this tribe? Why these seem like reasonable. Why do they believe that? You know what I mean? So not coming in to point fingers and laugh, but to say, okay, what's this about? So we've done preppers. We've been to a rodeo, not our cup of tea, but okay, let's try that. We've been to a foragers event, people who eat nuts and berries, and God bless them. We've been to a drag queen bingo night. We've been to there's just a whole slew of the anime
Okay.
convention.
Yeah.
We went to a uh like a sci-fi uh convention. People were dressed up like Klingons and all that kind of stuff. And that's a great example of, all right, that's not my thing, but damn, I see why they're into it. And their costumes were phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah.
the craft work, you just had to go, whoa. So
Impressive.
yeah, no kid, not my thing, but props to you, man.
Mm.
But so we're kind of looking at trying to put together some things like that are really getting people to be outside of their identity bubble, to
Hmm.
just do something just completely weird. And so we're starting to shape that up. There was there was roller derby last weekend. Did you get a
Hey,
chance to?
that sounds fun.
Well, yeah, I've never done it, not my cup of tea, but yeah, it sounds fun, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just saying, get out of your, get over yourself, get out of
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
And it goes to also what I want, the big ideas thing, all the things that I'm doing are really ways for people to connect. And when we have this polarized world where we're pointing fingers at each other and saying, you're red and you should be blue, or you're blue and you should be red, can we just get connect beyond that on something else? Because we have more in common than we think. A lot of times we have issues on the same issues. We just think the way to solve them is different or whatever. And so I'm looking for some way to use what we've got to help people find common ground and connect. Aside from the polarization, there's this issue of social isolation and mental health issues. So, if I can do something and have fun, I'm in.
Well, that sounds fantastic to me. I can't wait to see and learn and hear more about it. You're always innovating, always trying new things, and I love that mindset of, hey, it's just an experiment.
Just an experiment, right?
But the
Time boxed
best
it.
part is that if
Yeah,
it doesn't work, you're not afraid to go ahead and let it go. I think
right,
that's fantastic.
right. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, like I said, I'm having a blast. I don't know what works for everybody else, but I'm having fun and making money. So I just
Oh,
wish that
I'm
for everybody
excited for
else.
you. I'm so grateful to have you and your energy kind of in my circle. I feel blessed. Thank you.
Oh, I'm blessed as well. So, and I'm
Oh.
cheering you on. I know the adventure you're on. Talk about taking risk, my friend.
I'm a
I
pretty good
mean,
risk taker.
yeah, yeah, you're
I'm
out
not
there
much
doing
of
an
a
experiment.
complainer, so once I get out here, once I do the thing, I'm pretty committed and I just
Mhm.
keep moving forward. I don't know any other direction to go but forward.
Yeah, yeah, that's your energy, man. That's your temperament. That's the way you think, and I think you're on a grand adventure, and I really respect and admire you for that.
Oh, thanks. Those are such kind words. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Marian, for being here today. This was such a fun conversation, as I knew that it would be. I knew that we were going to go over in time. I knew this was going to be great. I knew it was going to be full, chock full of all kinds of fantastic nuggets. But just one more thing. If I might ask you, you've been on an incredible journey through leadership, whether it be in corporate or now entrepreneurship, and you've been surrounded by others walking their own journeys.
Mhm.
What's one thing that you now know that you wish you had known in the beginning of your journey?
Someone else asked me that question, and we were actually looking at a. He'd asked me to bring a picture of my young self. I look like Pippi Longstocking with my little freckles. Totally am Pippi. And I realized, I said, you know what, little Marion, you be you, boo. You know what I mean? You can tell me the oven's hot, but I just have to put my hand on it. And every mistake I've made has led me here, and it's hurt sometimes, and I've been exhausted. But I don't know. What advice would I give myself? I just needed to learn a lot. And I don't know, the best way for me to learn is by getting in there and doing. So I don't know. One thing I wish I would have learned. I don't know. I'm willing to bet on myself. And I think other people should do the same thing.
I love it. And you are.
Yeah.
And you should.
And
It's
so
been a
should
pretty
you, and
good
you
bet.
are. Yeah. So far, I'm pretty happy gal.
I'm so happy for you too. Ah. Well, my dear, I will let you get back to your regular work. 'Cause
Yeah.
I know you got some, so I'll
Yeah,
let
just a little
you
bit.
get back to that. But I'm so grateful, and I hope we can do this again sometime.
You bet. Count
All
me
right.
in. And you do more of the
Thanks.
talking this time. This has been the Marian show. It needs to be yours.
No, this is a this podcast is here for the people. This isn't for me. This is for you. This
Well,
is my
thank you.
goal.
All
So
right.
I'm
Well,
glad. Thank you. Thank you
peace
so
and
much.
productivity. See you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Savvy Leader podcast. Be sure to check out the description for any relevant links and additional details that we might have shared throughout this week's episode. And if you're looking to continue this conversation, we'd love to see you over at the Savvy Leaders Lounge on Substack or the Savvy Living Network for additional insights. That's savvylivingnetwork.com. We'll see you there.